Hey, welcome back, knitters. This is Janet from Purl Together, and today we're going to start on block 7 of our Norah's Vintage Afghan knit along. This is number 7 of 20, so this is a long-term knit along. We've been doing one block a month. So if you're interested in starting out, you can certainly start with this block if you like, or you can go back to the beginning. But either way, regardless of where you start, watch the Afghan prep video first. I'll put a link for that down below. I'll put the link to the pattern down below. All the links are down below. All right, I am using Madeline Tosh vintage worsted weight, and it's lovely, squishy, high twist, good stitch definition. I'm really enjoying this yarn. So I want to give a big shout out to the patrons. These are people that financially support this channel by pledging a little bit every month. And there's different levels of support, just like your local public TV or public radio station. So in trade for that, I offer perks and benefits for that support, including patron-only video, early release videos, virtual knit night, patron-only group over on Facebook. So check that out if you're interested at patreon.com/Purl Together. All right, now let's get started. All right, before we get too far into it, I just want to point out a couple of things about the pattern. So we're just going to start out with rows 1 through 4, 5, and 6 through 9, the same way we have with the previous squares. And also the increased row is very similar as well. But I do want to point out that when we begin the chart, we're beginning on the wrong side. So you need to make note of that. All right, so I like to just familiarize myself with what's going on here. This is all pretty self-explanatory. I'll show you the cables 1 or 2 times. And this is really nothing new with this chart. But it's going to look really cool. One thing to keep in mind is sometimes patterns are updated when there's typos or mistakes. So the first thing I noticed right away is the number 1 row and the number 2 are on the same row. When you go download the latest version, which should be version 7, that has been corrected, where row 2 and 4, 6, 8, those are actually slid up. So they're in the proper position. If you go download the latest version, which I have not, row 1 over here, you're going to start on the wrong side. So instead of reading the pattern the way we normally do from right to left, since we're beginning on the wrong side, we're starting here and we're reading from left to right on the wrong side row when we very first begin. So you're going to start here, and these are actually knit stitches on the wrong side, purl stitches on the right side, go across, and we're going to repeat this area from C to B between the red lines. So if you'll notice their chart notes here explain exactly that. On the wrong side, you begin at D, work to B, repeat between C and B, and then end at A. And then when we work flat, you're going to simply go up to row 2 and work back across. So you're working back and forth like this in a zigzag pattern. If you're new to chart reading, check out a link down below where I have a different video that explains more thoroughly how to read a knitting chart. Okay, as with all the previous blocks, we've knitted rows 1 through 4 in garter stitch. Row 5 is this knit 1, purl 1 going across, and then 6 through 9 is the garter stitch again. All right, the written instructions indicate we want to knit 1, make 1. Now when I make 1, I'm just going to do, as before, I'm just going to do this lifted bar increase where I go up and I lift the bar, put it on the left-hand needle, and then knit through the back loop. This is easier if you have pointy needles. If you don't, I'll show you my little kind of rolling maneuver trick for that if you have less than pointy needles. So knit 1, make 1, and then we're going to knit 2, make 1 27 times. So knit 2, make 1, lift that up, put it on. And then if you have trouble poking your needle in through the back loop, you can poke it in the front and then just kind of roll things around. Then knit through the back loop. Or drop it like I did. Okay, let me show you that again. Knit 2, make 1, put it on there, roll everything around, and insert the left needle into the front, which is the same as putting the right needle in the back, knit through the back loop. So that just twists that so you don't end up making a hole that is obvious. So you're going to do that 27 times, or if you don't want to count 27 times, as I've mentioned in previous videos, you're just going to continue doing that until you have 2 stitches left. Okay, with only 2 stitches left now, we're just going to knit 1, make 1, and knit 1. And then I always double check that I didn't mess up in my counting somewhere and I have the correct number of stitches. All right, I have the required 86 stitches, so beginning on the wrong side row, we're going to just knit through row number 1, beginning over here because it's the wrong side row, so we're going to be going across this way to start with. So just do your knits and purls all the way across, repeating what's in the middle here until you have 3 stitches left, and those will be knits because we're on the wrong side. All right, you'll notice the first stitch alternates between a knit and a purl depending on what row you're on. So that just creates that little garter stitch edge in that column, just the very first stitch going up the side. So we have a knit 1 and we purl 2, knit a couple more, and then we'll be ready for our first 2/2 cable to the left. So 2/2 to the left, if I'm doing it with a cable needle, I simply slip these to the front, hold them in the front, and knit the next 2. But here, I'm going to take my cable needle behind and scoop up the two that are here, slip out my left needle while I'm pinching the other stitches against the right needle, and then just simply replace them back on the left. So I've just switched places with those 2 sets of stitches. I put these back on the left needle and I just knit straight across them. So I don't think we have any cables in this particular chart that's going to involve any purl stitches. They're just 2/2s or 4/4s, I believe. So that's going to make for a pretty quick square here. Do another couple of knits and purl sets. And in a minute, I'll show you that again. Okay, so now since I'm repeating the area between these red lines, I've just performed this cable 2/2 to the left, and I'm knit 2, purl 2, knit 12, and we're just going to repeat this part. So we're not going to have anything in this panel of 12 until we get to this other bigger 4/4 cable. All right, so again, the way we're going to do a 2/2 cable to the left without a cable needle is to just take your needle in underneath behind here, being careful not to catch the back side of these stitches. Slip your left needle out by pressing these 2 at the base against your needle. Bring your left needle around and put them back on. So you've just switched positions, pulling these over across the front. Put these 2 back on and knit across. Okay, so we're just going to follow the chart and repeat the area between the red lines until we get to where we have 11 stitches left, I believe. You can count that, but I think it's 11. Then we'll perform our last cable section and a few purls and knits, and we'll be done with row 2. I just want to take a moment to point out a couple of things. While you're reading a pattern like this and while you're reading your knitting, you'll notice that between this first 2/2 cable and the next one, there are 3 plain rows in this particular column, set of stitches that make up this column. And then here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plain rows between. So you've got, they don't necessarily match up. So here you're doing cables without doing ones in the center. And if you'll notice too, this is a right leaning cable and this is a left leaning cable. So that's going to make an interesting pattern on a background here. So, and these are all facing the same direction. My sense of symmetry would prefer that these point to the right and these point to the left, but I didn't write the pattern. One thing I wanted to show you though, if you get in doubt of how to read your knitting and when to do these green 2/2 leaning left cables, there's 3 plain rows in between. So let's look at that and see what it looks like. So there's 3 rows in between. You can plainly see here, this is where I've stretched this across. That's where I've performed the cable initially. Now that's going to loosen up and not look so tight after we do a few more rows. So that was the initial one. This was row number 3, where I was on the wrong side and I purled that. And now this is row number 4, and I'm just going along here, getting ready to perform this cable. So you can look at that and you can tell that that was pulled across, and so that's the cable where we performed the cable row, and these are 2 plain ones. So when we come back across the back side, the wrong side, the next time we're on the right side, we'll be ready to do this left leaner cable again. So just get used to learning to read your knitting. So when we do this blue 4/4 to the left, we're going to knit 4 stitches first, which I've done. And now you can perform this without a cable needle if you're brave. If it's really though, if it's this many stitches, I don't really like to risk 4 or 5. So I will go ahead and pull these off on my little cable needle here. I like these little wooden ones. I'll put a link down below where you can get a hold of those on Amazon if you like. And then hold those to the front and then simply knit 4 and then knit the 4 off the cable needle. You can do it without, in exactly the same way we were doing the 2/2s. It's just a little more risky in case you drop one. And I don't want to spend a bunch of time, you know, fishing it back up if I lose one. I just rather go ahead and use the cable needle and maximize my knitting. Okay, so that's going to point to the left or to the outside of my square. All right, now I got a couple of purls again. And I'm just going to knit on by the next one. And we're going to carry on again, repeating the space between those red lines. I've just barely started row 10. So here on this row is the first time we have both cables, both the 2/2 left and then the 4/4 to the right. We haven't done that one yet. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then I want to show you how to take out a cable if you notice a mistake. So I've done the 2/2 to the left, and you can see that starting to make a twist, and it goes up to the side. So there's, you can see that I've done 3. So here we're going to take 4 off and hold them to the back. Knit the next 4, and then simply knit those off the cable needle. And then we should have 4 left over here if we've counted properly, because we're just working with the first set of 8, and then we'll have 4 plain stitches left to knit in this panel. All right. So let's say we've gone along here and we knit a couple more and we realize that maybe you held your cable needle to the front instead of the back. Or maybe something's amiss, you know, and you need to go back and take that out. So we're just going to take back these couple of stitches. So by that, I just mean using your left needle and going in underneath so that you can remove that and still have that left stitch trapped on your needle there so you don't lose it. And then you'll notice this is where the cable was. All I'm going to do is put it right back on the cable needle. I'm just going to do everything in reverse. So I'm using my cable needle because I want those to be held to the back on the cable needle. So I'm just using my cable needle to go in under that stitch, and then I can take the top loop off. Being careful not to lose this one, I hold those to the back just like before, and then I tink these back. If you're not familiar with the term tink, it's just the word knitting backwards, and it just refers to, you know, taking a stitch out one at a time. So when you tink back cables, you're just doing everything exactly in reverse. Okay, so then we could put this back on, or we could hold this to the front if that's what we were supposed to do at the time. So since we want the 4/4 to the right, we'll leave that in the back and we'll go ahead and perform the cable again. Now this is quite a span between here, so I tend to kind of move this down and snug it up so that it joins up with this stitch the way that it should, instead of leaving a big old gap. And that's just a matter of tension and practice, I think. Then I'm going to pull my cable needle to the left, stretching it across the back of my work. And I gave that a little tug. I want to have that a little bit extra slack here on these first several stitches, just so it's not puckered. So it is a little more relaxed along the back. All right. And we're just going to carry on repeating between the portion between the red lines. So you can see that's going to look pretty cool. Now that I'm going to kind of smooth out. That's where I pulled that across the back, and that will even out. It'll block out for sure as well. This one kind of looked that way too initially, but in a few rows in, you can check and it'll block out. You can tug on it a little bit here and there, and you know, even things will even up. All right, so now I'm going to knit these next 2, and then I'm going to do my 2/2 to the left. Again, you can use a cable needle if you like. And we're just going to carry on. I'm going to knit through this a few more repeats, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm halfway through or so. All right, I've knitted through the chart 5 times, and now I'm just going to continue on with rows 1 through 9. This did end up making a fantastic looking braid, and I'm really liking this section here. I haven't done a cable that, you know, repeats in quite that way before, so I'm really pleased with how this looks, and of course I love this yarn. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do another 9 rows. Then we'll decrease back down to our original number of cast on stitches. I've knitted through the chart 5 times and then the additional 9 rows, ending on a wrong side row. So now we're ready to do the decrease row on the right side. as indicated by the pattern, we're going to knit 2 together and then knit 1, knit 2 together 28 times so that we get back down to our original number of cast on stitches. Knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1 all the way across until you have 57 stitches left, or you can just knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together 28 times. If you don't want to count 28 times, you'll know when you have 3 stitches left and you knit 1 and knit 2 together, and then you'll end up with the correct amount. I always double check that I've ended with the right number of stitches. All right, knit 1, knit 2 together until we have 3 left, and then you're going to end with knitting 1, knit 2 together. So should have a total of 57 stitches now. All right, good. So now, beginning on the wrong side row, we're just going to repeat rows 1 through 9, just as we did in the beginning of the chart, so that we're repeating this garter stitch and then this little bit of a pattern and then the garter stitch again, so we're finishing off our square. And then I just do the standard bind off. So I'll go do those things and I'll show you how it looks when we're done. All right, I have to say I really liked how this block turned out. I have it blocked here and it's drying. Well, initially I thought I might have preferred these to be leaning to the right, and I kind of might. These are going in the center. It would have been kind of cool, but that's okay. I like how it turned out, and I'm happy with how it's going to incorporate into the Afghan as a whole. Usually I try to put on decent clothes and take a shower before I do these videos, but I tell you what, it's August here in Southeast Wyoming. We are trying to wean baby goats and get them sold and delivered to various people, and as you can see, the garden is getting big and things are just really hectic, so you get what you get. It's real life, right? So I hope you enjoyed block 7 as much as I did. It was really straightforward and I appreciated that. I just liked the predictability of it. I got to where I could just almost not even look at the chart, and so that was kind of fun to just be able to knit it while I was watching a show, and it came together really quickly. So block 8 looks pretty straightforward also, so we'll look forward to an easy block next month as well. Be sure to join the Facebook and the Ravelry groups. If you have any questions, you can always post there and I'll be happy to help you out.